Radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night. Only on 919.
Happy Friday. You're listening to 919. My name is Jack Devanarayan and this is Reality Radio. It's as real as it gets. Every Friday night when we have a guest live in studio to talk about the incredible stories that shape their remarkable lives. Tonight, my very good friend, the one I see at every major arts event in Joburg. He is an award-winning arts writer, singer, songwriter, composer, and playwright. Please welcome Bruce Dennill.
Hello. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to be in here.
But I mean, studio spaces for you would be second home.
Yes, I mean that's part of why it's so cool. I haven't been in one for a while, and it's also good to be on this side of the desk. I don't have to press any of the buttons or any of the sliders. But they are, I mean, to your show's concept here with stories and getting to know people. Studios are great places to do that. So good to be here.
I like the fact that you can actually concentrate the attention on your guest and on the themes of the show. And for me, this is a really, really big deal because, forgive me, but I've had an arts focus ever since I started the show in March. Oh,
We're the most interesting people, Jay. So.
But we can back that up. We can actually, yeah. People in the arts industry are simply the finest guests you can have in
I have
studio
no
with a
argument
radio
whatsoever.
TV.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, Reality Radio in today's episode is the very last episode for the year.
There we go. So you're finishing big. Okay, I'm going to just stop this now. Okay, yes. Good.
No, but I mean, I did put that on
I know,
social media.
that's fair. Okay, so I'm just repeating.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's lovely to see you because we don't often get a chance to talk about how you ended up being Bruce Dennill, the man who is the playwright and the singer-songwriter, the man who attends events. You have an event tonight.
Yeah, I've got to run at 7 to
right?
get to Monte Casino Theatre to review a show. Yeah, so.
Okay, what show is that?
That's Mzansi Ballet, and they're doing Carmen, a version of Carmen, or an edited version of Carmen.
Are you qualified to watch a ballet and
I did the publicity for Joburg Ballet for a year.
Really?
But after I left the Citizen, which you're going to ask me about, I was the arts editor there, and then leaving there, I went to do publicity at the ballet because, it ties into all of these things you're talking about is when you understand arts and artists, and maybe you need to understand artists more than arts because they make. The one makes the other, and helping them to deal with it, or being, understanding yourself better, so you can make it better and market it better, was so great. So I went in there as an editor and an artist, and a long-time friend of Ian MacDonald, who was the long-time artistic director of Joburg Ballet and the founder, so I knew exactly what package an editor would want to receive. Mm-hmm. To make it the easiest to use, and basically, if you make it easier to use, you dig into tap into people's laziness there, and you get huge returns. So it was a very, very good fit because I could make it very easy for you as a publisher or an editor to go. Here's a great package. It's ready to go. Pretty people in the pictures. Yeah. Let's go. We don't have to understand ballet. So you asked me if I'm qualified to understand to write about ballet, but maybe I'm qualified to invest in arts.
Yeah,
maybe.
I get,
and that's the job. Yeah.
Because I'm afraid that I'm not qualified to sit in the auditorium and appreciate the fullness of the art form. And I would love to learn. That's the thing that
I'm going to say here. Honestly, there are certain art forms where it's much harder for me. Yeah. It's much more difficult. Dance is one of them. Fine art is another. I can hardly draw, happy face, circle. It's just, but it's the challenge is so great because again, the people are no less deserving of respect for a start and celebration than Springsteen or whoever, that is already very celebrated and well known. So those reviews take longer, but when you finish them and they're good. It's very, very satisfying. And also, I generally find out that they're good because the people who I wrote them about or for or associated with tell me. And they go, oh, you really,
say that was fair.
understood the thing. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a willingness to invest again becomes the central thing. So you go in and you go, I don't really have a clue, and I don't know what that dance move is called,
Yeah.
and this and that and the next thing. But it was beautifully. Yeah, again, you can look at a whole bunch of things. It was beautifully presented on 17 different levels, and these people have clearly rehearsed through the roof, and that's worth celebrating, and so on and so on. And, as an artist, as an actor, when people recognize the work that you've done.
Yeah.
Talent is one thing, but when people recognize the work that you've done,
Yeah.
it's hugely meaningful. It's really special.
What I quite enjoy about a critic, not that I've had enough of that in my own work as well, but I quite enjoy when
I don't critique you because I know you know how to use guns.
Yes, I do.
It's a very serious moment there.
So what I quite like is when a critic spots my hiding places and my shortcuts.
Aha. Yes.
I love that.
And I love seeing this. So, I mean, I'm just looking at my nearly empty glass of water here. There was a very well-known actor who's a good friend of mine, so I won't mention his name, but on stage, and he paused a little bit too long on his cue,
Yeah.
and then turned around, and there was a glass of water sitting on the cabinet over here, and sort of picked it up, but very smooth, as though it was part of the thing. And I said to him afterwards, you lost your line there, didn't you? And he goes, yes, and if you tell anybody, I'll kill you.
Yeah.
And I've told you. But I didn't say his name. So there we go. I'm
No,
still
but it's
safe.
incredible. And you know what? We've had a few people on the show that have confessed to those beautiful moments of frailty, vulnerability, of humanity, because that is the truth of the world that a performer lives in.
It absolutely is. And if you can, it doesn't matter what level of fan you are, if you can appreciate the capacity that it takes to not panic.
Oh, hell yeah.
At the time, to not panic at all is that's a great start. But to do something brilliant in that time,
and find
as
your way
well
back.
or instead, and then find your way back. And especially if you're in an ensemble and everybody else has to adjust, and that is poetry, man. That's amazing to watch.
I know, just to see the cover up is glorious.
Yes.
So, I think what I'd love to ask you about is whether you appreciate the diversity also of the different art forms that you cover. We were talking about ballet.
I love it. Yes, yeah.
And you made the point of saying there are so many people who are so deserving of commendation because of how they apply themselves to their particular art form or discipline. And the reality is that, you can be a Springsteen, but there are so many different kinds of art forms, and those performers are completely unapologetic.
Yes.
It's them.
Yes, it's the unapologeticness and the respect that deserves.
Yeah.
So again, it becomes a thing of celebrating people.
Yeah.
So you walk into a ballet studio, and I would encourage you, again, if you're listening, you can just, pretty much, I think, maybe phone ahead, but you can walk into the Joburg Ballet Studios in Braamfontein, beautiful view of the city, the cold glass wall, and sit and watch.
Really?
And just because you're supporting,
Yeah.
I'm just going to, this isn't official, I'm just going to throw in, if you do make a donation to Friends of the Ballet, go.
That completely makes sense, and I'm going to take you up on the offer.
But if you do that, you just, if nothing else, you watch them warm up.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, these people are athletically superior to me in every way.
Absolutely.
That's 15 minutes of warm up. And then you start watching little guys 5'4" lifting people with one hand above their heads, and they have Springbok rugby players in there often as marketing gimmicks. And these guys, Pierce Spies, I remember, he couldn't deal with it. He was like, guys, I have so much respect, and he became a bit of an ambassador because he was like, this is much harder than what we do.
That is unbelievable. You described the most beautiful scenes. So we're going to come back into it, I think.
Fantastic.
We'll take a short break now. This is Reality Radio with Bruce Dennill and me, Jack Devnarine.
919 has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children and that does not amount to hate speech, or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. If you think we're not living up to that code, you can inform the BCCSA. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa to PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. Or email the BCCSA at napsa.co.za. For more information, visit the bccsa.co.za. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnerine is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for Reality Radio, as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Yeah, and we back. It is Reality Radio. It is so cool.
Tune there, man.
It
Dig
always gets me
Yeah.
going. My Taba is the one who's just, he loves playing it for effect. If he had to play it right now, he knows I'm going to start.
There we go. Yeah,
dancing
no,
to
nobody wants to see me dance. So
No,
don't,
no, no.
don't do that.
Talk about diverse art forms. Yeah. So I imagine those incredible moments that you describe in the ballet studio where 15 minutes of stretching and warming up before they even get into like the
Oh no, I'm just
basic
saying it
routines.
takes you 15 minutes to understand. They do it for hours. They're athletes and
Yeah.
and with artistry mixed in. These are seriously hardcore people, and I mean the injuries and the this and the that. They,
Sure.
you know,
That's
Bernice
hard,
Sylvius was the prima ballerina when I was there. I think she danced until she was professionally, and she still teaches and stuff. I think until post 40, and I think she was off for 6 months in that whole time. Because she was just proper training in this, but just like an epic athlete, you know. And then you look at her, and she's all sweet and lovely,
Yeah.
and you know, as she's look at Ibn Etzebeth, it's a different story.
Yeah.
But one is not more hardcore than the other. It'll just hurt more when one runs into you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think of yourself as an artist?
Definitely, and it took me a while. This is actually a big thread to go down, but I think we all have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Probably all on a massive level. I was going to say on varying levels, but I think the levels change as you figure it out, as you get more mature. But that's only part of it. As you figure out where what you do sits.
Yeah.
So you know, as a writer, I mean, I'm 49 now. I think I was 39 when I figured that the word to describe myself, one word, is writer. So everything else comes out of that. And writing is a creative act, therefore artist already.
Okay.
I've been a singer-songwriter since, I've been playing in bands and stuff since 1990, so writing songs since 1991, so whatever the maths on that is. So again, there's a hell of a lot of development there. You know, you can have a talent for it or not. Now I can write a good song, and again, being a career critic means I know it's good. I don't need your opinion.
Yeah.
It's good, and I can back that up. I can
So
write
what
a
makes it
good
good
song
then?
from scratch in 3 hours.
That's incredible.
And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do, and I'm you know what, I'm going to claim it. That's where the hump was. It's like, oh no, but you know, it's lovely and it's in my file in my
I don't
base.
know if I can do another one like that.
No, you know, but people again now say to me, you know, will you write a play for me? Will you write it? I'm like, don't, because I will.
Yeah.
You know, and that's going to involve work on your part. I'm
Sure.
capable and willing,
Yeah.
but you know, don't chirp now, because
Yeah, because I'll be there.
There'll be work to do. Yeah.
That's crazy. Because I think too often people say, I think I should write a book. And
And they don't do it.
No.
I mean, yeah, that one step. As an editor, I get stuff all the time. You know, people saying, you know, my kid wants to be a writer. What do you recommend? And I go, start, keep going. The end.
yeah.
That's the whole deal. I don't have a qualification.
Yeah.
I'm a zoologist. If you look at my Wits, degree.
zoologist.
I'm a zoologist. It's not really a long story. It's just I didn't know what I wanted to study. And my folks, bless their hearts, had saved up, and they were like, "You are sodding going to varsity now. We've done put all this work in. So study what you love." And I grew up as a Gerald Durrell kind of kid, collecting.
I love that.
I had scorpions and snails and whatever
I
in my
remember
room.
that. I wonder how many of our listeners right now
And then,
remember Gerald Durrell and
Well,
My
called Steve
Family and Other
Irwin or
Animals
whatever,
and-
that kind of thing. And then I was a writer already then. So then I studied English as well. So I've got a dual zoology English degree, which is
Yeah.
not that widespread, but it's got.
Did you ever want to pursue this zoological route?
No, because again, that's one of these things. It's always about learning as you go, and that was understanding belatedly, sort of 2/3 of the way through that it's essentially a research job. It's again, you read Gerald Durrell or you watch a wildlife vet on TV or something. This is romantic and amazing, and this, but it's not. You're a vet. You're working 18-hour days, 20-hour days, and then also it's just most of it is not going to be having a wild dog puppy, as your best friend. It's going to be studying.
Or your favorite capybara to wake up
exactly
next to you.
which species of gnat is overpopulating this lake and ruining the ecosystem. Which is completely necessary and brilliant, but boring in in large part. Yeah.
So, but I think also not to confuse a zoologist with a veterinarian. Right?
Yes, yeah. No, I mean just the loving animals was the start of that, and then also at Varsity, at school, and partly because of doing art stuff, so playing music, writing, playing music, and playing sports, that kind of thing. I potentially could have got the marks to get into veterinary, but again, I also made a call at the time of going, I could, but I'm going to have to do that to get there, and I don't want to.
So when you start off in your singer-songwriter mode now, does it start with a tune, or does it start with a lyric? Does it start with a word? Where
now
is the spot?
Now, and again, this is a developed thing, but I mean, let's just wrap it up here. It's I tend to, and cell phones have been a big boon here, because it used to be, I had one of those tape recorders that you had to press play and record at the same time, that kind of vibe, and you could get a couple of ideas there, and I got a dictaphone, and you could get a couple of ideas there. But it's basically, most of the first half of my sort of songwriting career was just repeating it in your head until you make sure it stays there. I mean, I wrote a song actually for my wife. I was backpacking around Europe. She was in England, and at a train station, I just got a whole lovely tune idea in my head, and then also lyrics at the same time in that case. But I didn't have anything. Got onto the train. There was a acoustic guitar, Spanish, the nylon string guitar, tucked into the luggage thing, and I was like in the cab there, can I borrow this? Because I'd been standing on the train platform where I'd written this thing in my head for 45 minutes, just singing it again and again. So I'm not looking at anybody, I'm not answering questions, I'm just singing it again and again because I need this melody to stay, this hook. Wrote it on the train, but still, and then wrote in my little notebook, my diary, whatever I was keeping there. So I had the chords and the this and the that, and then but you just have to also, you get off the train, you keep singing it because it's got to stick. You got to, when you look at the page, it's got to jump out. Now with cell phones, it's so much easier, and this will often happen at home. I'll be like, hang on, I've got a song idea, and you go down the passage and you go, and again, I think a lot of people do that. My discipline, which I found has really kicked on immensely, is start that and then finish the song. And you don't know what that means, so you go like is what you got in your head at the dining room table. Okay, keep going. And so you're going to assume maybe that's your verse, maybe that's the first line. So as you're humming and making stupid nonsense noises, take it to a chorus. And then now go back to the verse. Do you still remember the verse? Keep going, but you haven't pressed stop yet. And now a chorus. Okay, so we need a bridge now. So do something different. Change a key. And finish it and get to the end, and it's now 3.5 minutes long or something. It's a full song. Kind of outlined or written.
Through all its component parts.
Yeah. And then on the word side, it's so often you hear or you see or you just dream up just a beautiful phrase. Or as you're processing something, you feel something, and those are the 4 words that I need to get that into a song. And once you figure out where that fits, maybe in one of these ideas that you have, you can you can expand and build the whole thing from there.
Who are some of your favorite lyricists? Because I just find genius in the way people put words together. Billy Joel is probably my
Billy
favorite.
Joel's fantastic. And I love this, that Turn the Light Back On, that new song of his was just so beautiful. I know he co-wrote that, but Billy Joel's one. My go-to sort of bedrock person is James Taylor. So as a storyteller, I mean, Fire and Rain and Something in the Way She Moves, but a lot of that stuff he wrote as a very, very, very broken, hardcore heroin addict.
Oh, no ways.
Who was losing people left, right, and centre, but probably because he was a heroin addict, and they were as well.
Right.
So just very, very dark place in himself and around him, and came up with poetry like I've seen Fire and I've seen Rain. These are obvious things, like cliches now. But they're made so because they're just genius. Paul Simon is another one. I love how clever he is, and how unexpectedly clever he is.
Yeah.
I've mentioned Springsteen. I find Springsteen interesting because he's not. I'm not a hardcore fan, but I'm a hardcore respecter.
Oh, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think if you play enough songs with a 17-piece band or whatever the E Street Band is when it's big, they kind of sound fairly similar, but there's just an authenticity to the whole thing, and the journey that he's been on, and he's an honest dude as well. When he hits a hole, he goes, I did some stupid stuff there, and I'm not proud of that.
Man, he did a special recently, a one-man show.
Yes, on the Broadway.
Absolutely blew me away.
Beautiful.
He was so self-effacing.
Yeah.
And honest.
Yeah.
And it's almost like there's a point at which he says, I cannot take credit for the songs I was writing about depicting a certain lifestyle and a man or people who've lost things, and they're growing up somewhere in the Midwest and they live by this, the simplicity of small town life.
But there's an interesting storytelling thing there, because as he will tell you, and he has told many people, he doesn't live many of his lyrics. He's a very rich man writing about how tough it is on the farm.
But he'll acknowledge it, right?
But he'll acknowledge it, and he'll say, but I know it. I have met people and I've appreciated it, and it's this thing of celebrating people. So he's going, Chuck, who lives on the whatever with the tractor. Chuck's a special guy because if only because he supports his family well or whatever. Now we've got to kick off for a beautiful song, and that matters. So back to your question about other things, the Civil Wars, beautiful band, 2 albums, and then they broke up apparently because they weren't married to each other, and it's guy and a girl, John Paul White and Joy Williams, brilliant musicians individually and collectively, and made a ethical call of this is not going to end well for our marriages. So we've made 2 massively successful albums, 1 Grammys left, right, and center, but it's not a smart idea, so let's not. And I was like, I'm really miss the band, but that's huge.
Very Fleetwood Mac as well, isn't it?
Well, it's the opposite of Fleetwood Mac. Yeah, it's the flip side of the coin. Yeah.
How's this for storytelling? Bob Seger.
Fantastic, yes.
Yeah.
Silver Bullet Band, I love, and his voice. So, I mean, that's another, what I wanted to sort of add on here is just how people, it's one thing to have good lyrics, it's another thing to deliver them in a way that you and I maybe can't figure out, but it just punches you straight in the heart.
Yeah.
Jason Isbell, for one, is one of my favorite contemporary singers, country guy. Country guy with an ethical, hardcoreness as well. He's politically, he'll just say what he thinks, and people attack him on social media for a stance. So he goes, he has the deal, and I don't need you to like it, and I don't need you to buy my albums. Have a nice day, and stuff like that. But he's got the most expressive, beautiful voice. He's one of the top-rated guitarists around, etc. And so they're beautiful songs, but they're delivered in this way that just makes you melt, and you're not sure why.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So, as we go into a quick break here, Bruce, how many instruments do you play?
I'm going to say that the instrument that I'll back up every time is my voice. Yeah. And then I'll say I accompany myself on guitar, but again, maybe that's my imposter syndrome. I'm a solid rhythm guitarist. I'm a good rhythm guitarist.
Fantastic.
And then I learned piano to grade 5 by the time I was 10 and whatever, so I could play quite well then. I can't anymore, and I could play drums and bass pretty well as well, but I'm out of practice, and practice is completely necessary to be good at these things.
And I think, every artist would agree with you.
Yeah.
It's Bruce Dennill on Reality Radio this Friday night. We're taking a quick break, and we'll be back after this.
Looking to make a difference? Join us at Little Eden Society and become part of changing lives. Your support can provide lifelong care to 300 children and adults living with profound intellectual disability. Whether it's through volunteering, donating, or spreading the word, every action counts. For more information, visit littleeden.org.za or call us on 011-609-7246. Creating a brighter future for those in need, together.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnerine is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
We're back, Reality Radio this Friday night, the very last Reality Radio episode for 2024.
There is no more reality after tonight.
No, we're going to slip into an alternate reality after this.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
I finished work for the year, so that actually stands.
What is work
officially,
for you?
Official work. So I edit a couple of magazines. I edit Skyways, which is the Airlink in-flight magazine.
Yeah, okay.
Which is really cool. And then I edit another magazine called Very Interesting, which is kind of a general knowledge so very interesting. We shorten to VI, and then if you think of QI, it's that kind of
love
it's
QI.
that kind of vibe. It's just knowledge is important
I
and amazing
bought
and wonderful.
all the
so
QI books.
there we go.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's kind of that kind of thing.
Okay.
That's
Don't
the
you
day
wish
job.
we had a South African QI, VI?
Well, yeah, we do have the VI, but are you talking like on a TV
TV
thing?
format,
Yeah, it would
yeah.
be great, man. It would be again, you got to do it at that level to make it work, though.
It's got to work like that.
So you got to find the relevant people, and without I'm not even thinking about local people yet. But if you're going to match up to Stephen Fry or Sandy Toksvig, this is a high bar. So worth going for, but it's a high bar.
But it's a point though, because both these people are they're world-renowned authors.
They're also, the thing is, and again, no imposter syndrome. They're smarter than most people.
Yeah,
you need
down.
you need somebody there who's smarter than most people, and that has to be celebrated. We've got to go. They work there because that's the best.
Yes.
That's the best person for the job.
You know what I enjoyed was watching Judge Dennis Davis on his panel discussion talk show about legal issues.
Yes.
And he's such a brilliant legal mind, and he was also so engaging because he gets so immersed in the subject, and he interrogates it in incredible ways.
Not bigger than the thing. He's a kind of a fairly unassuming sort of guy. He doesn't try to take over the room.
Yeah,
which is super important.
And then of course we had the wonderfully famous and much loved the late William Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Got me through Standard 9 Science or something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it was a bit too late for me, unfortunately.
It was a difficult thing.
Yeah. But we have these incredible personalities, and they're so wonderfully bright. And you just, you can hang on their every word, because you know that it's not just informed by expert subject knowledge. It's reinforced by world knowledge, by personal experience.
But also about knowing how to place it in whatever the context is.
Yeah.
So William Smith could talk to 6-year-olds and 50-year-olds.
That's right.
and be just as effective.
It's something I see on YouTube as well, where you'd have a physicist talking in 5 different levels to children from
and making it land
primary
every
school
time.
all the way to postgrad,
Yeah.
talking about gravity or light or something like that. And fascinating listening to them.
Absolutely. Now I love knowledge is something to be hugged and brought into your
Absolutely.
home. Yeah.
Which is something I wanted to talk to you about in terms of your work as a critic. I remember, I used to love, when I was growing up, this was in the 80s, driving to school. We used to live in Tongaat on the north coast of Durban, KZN, and drive all the way into town. So it was a 30K drive each way. And my favorite thing in the morning was listening to, back then, Capital Radio.
Yeah.
And Barry Ronga, who you know so well.
Yes.
Was on the morning show, and he used to give a quick review of whatever movie was going on in the theaters at that time, and it was captivating listening to the man because of his command of language, his ability to express things and ideas and vivid pictures. He could translate that into something that he was going to present on radio, but make it accessible to his radio audience.
Yes. No, craftsman of the highest order, and a lovely, generous human being. I remember going to my first professional film review, and meeting him and stepping up and going, and introduce. Hi, Mr. Ronga, it's a pleasure to meet you. Big fan. All of that kind of stuff, and seeing other youngsters coming and not doing that, and the difference, because again, he wasn't an uptight guy about his celebrity or anything in the slightest. He was about the quality of his work. And as you say, a celebration, I keep using the word, but it's the right word. A celebration of whatever he was doing, including the analysis of it. So it could be this bloody awful movie, but the celebration, celebrating the analysis of it and making that a wonderful story. Yeah. Storytelling is the heart of all of these arts that we're talking about. And he was so good at that. He was just a phenomenal, as you say, phenomenal elucidator. Is that a word? I don't know. But he was just expanding on something and also giving insight to it, and also, and this was a big deal, being unashamed about it, because he was quite often, depending on the market, he was quite often mocked. Oh, he said it was a sultry 7. Or, oh, shut up, twit. Do you understand what's gone into that?
Yeah.
Do you understand the difference at the time? Also, this can make. He could shut a show.
That's right. Yeah, he could back then. Yes,
he could ruin a career. He didn't. He never would. And this is the mark of a good career. It has to be balanced. It's something I take pride in, and I take pride in it because, again, the places that the feedback comes from matter.
Yeah, that's right.
So Betty on 27 lines down in Facebook, I don't care.
No.
But Barry would say it, and Barry would have me on his shows as a panelist, and Alan Swerdlow has me on his shows as a panelist.
Okay.
So no, I'm fine. I'm good. Thanks. Yeah.
And because also, however they described their support or their criticism of a particular show, they'd always back it up. They'd have reasons for laying it out.
You have to back it up. Again, it's completely disrespectful to the artist.
Yeah.
I think if you don't, I think I've had 3, and I've been professionally a critic professionally since '97. So there's been a lot of water under the bridge, a lot of shows, a lot of books, a lot of movies, a lot of films, a lot of concerts, etc., etc., etc. And I think I've chosen not to review 3, and then I've got hold of either the theatre owner or the producer or the whatever, and I've said, I can review it because I feel, and I think there should be a duty.
Yeah.
I feel there is a duty for me to do it. That's my job. That's the agreement. But I can't not say this because it was obvious. And if I say that, it could be damaging to the person. And I have nothing against the person. And also I've had more than enough bad nights as a performer or whatever it is. This is not maybe not a reflection.
Yeah.
But if I will give you an honest review, and this honest review will. I'm not claiming to have any sort of power, but this honest review will put people off.
Well, I think what is the supreme test of honesty, though, is being a critic and a performer as you are.
Yes, and it makes it easy to be honest. It also means I never get reviewed because I think nobody wants to
the
crit
revenge
a critic.
of the crit.
Nobody wants to crit a critic, but because I'm going to see more shows of theirs than there are of mine. But it's I wish that wasn't the case, because I'd appreciate informed comment. I really would. But where were we? I've gone off the rails there.
And it doesn't matter. We were talking about Barry Ronga.
Yes, yeah.
And one of the things that I absolutely appreciated about him, and I only met him a few times in person. The first time I met him in person was at a university debate.
Yes.
And it was some issue relating to the feminist movement.
Okay.
And Barry Ronga was there to talk about, or to get feminists to confront the manner in which they present their views.
Yes.
Which was a really interesting thing, and it was the first time I actually sat through one of those debates, because he has such an ability to command an argument, and to his credit, the way he can listen to the opposite side, that for me was gold, because I like so many people imagine a debate to be a confrontation.
Yeah, this is my stance, and that's all.
Yeah.
And this is your stance, and that's all, and we're just going to headbutt for an hour.
Yeah. And I was watching this man totally absorbed by what the opposition was saying, and he was taking it on board, and he was adapting his position, and then attacking them,
and showing people how to think.
Yes, exactly.
And that's, I think, a big part of why criticism is important, because and it's still something. I'll come out now, whatever, thousands of shows down, and you walk into the foyer and you hear something which you didn't think about, or you completely disagree with, or you think is completely superficial. And you kind of still have to walk through that and go, this is not what I thought in there, and I need to stick to what I thought. Because you're going, oh well, I just felt great with that, and I know there were technical issues with it, but I know I felt great.
Yeah.
So, I can critique it on a technical level and go, whatever, the spot was missed or the prop was late or whatever. Something happened. Okay, fine. But did I walk out there with a stupid big smile on my face? And did I feel I wanted to call somebody who I hadn't seen for a while? And that's the effect.
Yeah.
That's the impact.
Yeah.
If I'm a lighting designer and I thought the guy was bad or good or whatever, that's more fine. Comment. That's good, but I'm not. I'm a storyteller. I'm somebody who wants to write in a song or write a play or write a whatever that tells a story. And again, it will be valid. That's another thing we all need to claim. This thing that we made is completely valid. The way that you portrayed a character is completely valid. It might be that the director wants it different, and that's fine. Then do it that way as well, because that's also valid.
Yeah.
And the different perspectives will say this one is better than that one, and both of them will have validity. But you've mentioned it a couple of times. I think as long as you can back something up, as long as that's something you want to do and see the necessity of, then do what you need to do, but back it up.
Talk about storytelling, which I know you love so much. You co-wrote and you provided the full score for the one-woman show Actress.
Yes,
with Talia Kodesh in the title role.
That was a brilliant accident to begin with. I think. So she. I mean, we didn't know each other too well before. Sort of long-term mates, but not not seeing each other terribly often or whatever. And then a few years ago now, she sort of came up to me and said, "Listen, I was listening to what it was actually. Happy birthday. So the Facebook reminds you to tell people happy birthday and whatever. So a few years ago, I just started recording, coming up in my head, and then just recording just badly, but the technique and whatever, but just a little original happy birthday thing every year.
Oh, really?
And then I would send that to sort of artist friends and people I knew would appreciate it. I'm not going to send it to just like everybody on Facebook and whatever. And I sent it to her on her birthday, and she came back and she said, This is amazing because it's just so different. It's fresh, and it's reignited an idea.
Oh, fantastic!
So she had lived in New York for a couple of years. Had gone there because her husband was studying there, but had also obviously tried to get into the arts world there, but outside of Broadway, mad. Very, very difficult. And they had seen a singer-songwriter who was just great at telling stories. So she, inspired by this happy birthday thing, she said, "I think this might be the way to do that." I want a one-woman show, and I wanted to have original music. So would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. And then she said, I also don't know how to write a script. So I said, okay, well, let's do that. And I said, my one condition is that there has to be discipline. We have to meet once a week. There's no excuses. We meet once a week, and even if it's an hour, we write and we finish. And also, don't fiddle. Finish the draft, get it done, and then start fiddling. So that's what we did. Yeah.
And what was the process for you developing the score?
So that was wonderful. It was a case again. We didn't know how to write a script. None of us trained.
Yeah.
So we do the thing, and we got to a point after a few pages of script. We go, that needs a song there.
Oh.
Okay. And what do we want to do? Okay. So she's feeling this. Okay. Like, and I went home because we meet in a morning slot around our kids' school drop-offs. And so I went home and wrote it a couple of hours, sent it to her on the phone, and she started crying. She was, no,
what a beautiful process.
And that's, for the whole of Actress, as we went, it was kind of, okay, that needs a song. And then we had Brian Schimmel have a listen later on, and he goes, it needs an 11 o'clock number, the big finish kind of thing. So I was like, okay. Went home that afternoon and wrote that. That's just how it happened. But
the way you churn out stuff, Bruce, it's just incredible. I love the organic process that you engage, and it seems to be inherent in your creative ability in what you do. So much of that still to come, but we are going to take a break now, and we'll be back with more creative stuff with Bruce Dennill on Reality Radio.
Have a groundbreaking tech startup or hackathon idea? Empire Partner Foundation's Incubation Hub is here to nurture your vision. Our Incubation Hub provides the perfect environment for startups and hackathons to grow, access resources, and make their mark in the tech world. Join us at EPF's Incubation Hub and turn your tech dream into reality. Visit our website for more information on how we can help your startup thrive at empirepartnerfoundation.org.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnerine is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Reality Radio on a Friday night, the very last episode for 2024. Cannot believe the year has gone by so quickly. We started the show in March, and here we are now in mid-December, and we're busy wrapping up.
It's flying, man.
You still have a show to go to tonight, and
Yes.
that you're going to review.
Yes.
So where do those reviews go?
So they go to a site called Participate.
Yeah.
It's a sort of online arts mag, a blog, whatever you want to call it, which I started in 2014. So yeah, 10 years old now.
10 years. Nice one.
And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there. There's about 1700 reviews and stories and interviews there now.
Oh, come on.
Do
People contribute to what?
Very occasionally, but it's just I don't have budget, so I don't want to make you do things for free and use up your time and so on and so on. But yeah, so that's a great driver because that's how I operate. I want to come out of the show and analyze, and that's a place to do it. It was also just incident. If you are interested in finding it, it's just brucedennill.co.za and 2 N's and 2 L's in Dennill. So brucedennill.co.za. So go and check that out. But I started that actually towards the end. I was the arts editor of The Citizen for a long time, and I started the blog towards the end of that because it was I was there when papers sort of started really shutting down on art stuff because they were saying it doesn't bring in money, which may superficially line up, but it's not. It doesn't speak to the appeal of the paper if something is missing. Again, a newspaper has many facets to its personality, and you might pick it up and read the sports section, and somebody else picks it up and reads the whatever politics, and somebody else. And if art isn't in the mix there, it's just not there. So everybody that was going to go and look for crits or for the theatre, the movie listings or interview with somebody, they just didn't have anywhere to go. So I started there.
That's a great idea because I often wondered, and it's not like I've traveled extensively overseas, but you mentioned earlier how your wife Kate was in the UK and you were busy traveling around with your backpack. In Europe, for example, there seems to be a much deeper, richer culture of movie making, theatre going, crit, writing, that sort of thing.
I think that's probably too sort of high level. But I think because of the great history of Europe, particularly, there's just massive history everywhere.
Right.
You bump into a building and it's 1,000 years old.
Right. Exactly.
And this baker that you've just bought your sami from has been there since 1701.
And the statue and the bridge and whatever.
And all of that length of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just so I mean, you go to Florence and you go to the Uffizi Gallery, and rich, horrible people lived there who happen to be patrons of Michelangelo.
Sure.
Sure. And so those people, you live down the block and you don't give a flying toss about sculpture, but this happened there to your great-great-great-grandfather, and so on and so on. So it's just normal. It's just part of the fabric, and that's a big
heritage.
deal. So again, you walk around any of the cities. I remember in Bruges, in Belgium, walking into just a random church and looking. There was this little statue at the front, and it's a foot or two high, and I'd never heard of it or whatever. And I went in, and under there, blah blah blah, blah Michelangelo. What?
Whoa!
And it's sitting there,
Whoa!
Another one in Rome went into, again, a church that they said there was a relic of St. Peter, the manacles that he had.
Oh,
and that's the tourist guide.
Yeah.
And you go in there and you look to the side, and in the corner there's the guy with horns. And I'm like, that I recognize. That's Moses by Michelangelo. It's not in the book.
Come on.
So again, it's so normal.
Yeah.
And this is just, it's a box of a church. It's not a fancy cathedral or anything, but that's been standing there for hundreds of years. And you just kind of, this is normal. And what do they find under this thing from 1,000 years? Oh, it's a mosaic. It's an artwork. And what happens there? It's before technology. Art took time to, painting. You'd get a portrait of the king that we know what he looks like exactly, but it took a month to make. And so you got used to it. and it took time and all of that. It's the taking of time, I guess, is what's getting it. So in any younger country, and we're one, but there are many, there isn't the depth of culture. And again, it's wonderful to be cosmopolitan, but if we are, you and I are from different backgrounds, and if everybody's from different backgrounds, I don't understand. There's no prejudice against it, but I don't understand it.
Is it also that we spent a large part of our lives as South African people pretending that the elephant in the room doesn't exist in terms of its history, heritage, cultural practices, and rituals?
Look, again, I'm not a political animal particularly, but I think politics as distraction is a horrible waste. And if you are going, if you make the arts a tool of politics, it's not going to make me happy. It's not going to make you happy. It's not going to make a lot of people happy. Because that's not what it's about. It's not there to do that. It's there to process. And so much. I mean, we have the Market Theatre and others as particular struggle places or whatever. But it's what are those plays doing? What are our songs doing? It's helping us process. So if I have a way with words, good for me. And you can act beautifully and whatever. Great. So you can interpret something that presents something to somebody in a way that they can get it, which they couldn't get the concept before. But they've just seen you present this on stage or on TV or whatever. Okay, I get it now. Or in a song of mine, again, you're right. People say love songs are unfashionable. People know love. They either are in it or had it or want it or something. So there's going to be an aspect of every song somebody writes about love that's going to land with everybody. And if it's complete, if it's close to your, if we're having coffee and you tell me about this, whatever happened in this relationship, and it sparks something, I go and write it. I'm not writing your story other than the seed that came from the coffee. But you'll hear the song and you'll relate. You'll be emotional. And those are important things for art to do. As well as all the other stuff. We talked about the ballet and the athleticism. It's art is good for you. It works your brain. It's so great.
And you still have projects going on now. You're still writing stuff.
So I've got a new song that's halfway through. I need to actually call the engineer and set up a time with him to go and sit, because we've got the first mix, which needs a bit of tweaking. So I need to go and do that in the next few days. Talia and I are writing. It's not a sequel or anything, but we're writing another one in the vein of actress.
Because when a collaboration works, you want to keep it going, right?
And it's wonderful. And we get how to tell a story, and there's different strengths, so that's lovely. And then I'm writing my first solo play as well. So Dennill Anderson, who many of your listeners will probably know, he was in a show, Vincent, it's called. In which he was Vincent van Gogh, but with modern music and whatever. It was at Theatre on the Square, and it's one of those shows that
sorry, I missed that one.
It just gets put on and on again because people are just raving, and he's also sort of 26 and golden young man, and so it's probably all old ladies. I'm sorry, but he's a super talent. He's one of our next generational talents. We've had Craig Urbani and others in the past. Dennill Anderson is one of the next ones. But had one of those things at a theatre where he introduced me to his +1 and said, "Hey, this is Bruce, and he writes musicals and plays and things." And he goes, "You should write one for me." And I said, "Are you serious?"
Okay.
Because again, it's an opportunity for me, but I'm not cynical in the sense that I'm like, "Oh, he's the next big thing, so I should get in there."
No.
I'm going, he and I get on.
You believe in this guy.
He's seen actress. He's a supportive guy. He supports industry. He's a mensch. He's a good artist. He's not trying to step on everybody else, and that stuff is important. That's a guy I want to work with, and then we need to figure out what to work on. So that's a much heavier thing, which is a completely different headspace, and I'm doing that on my own. So that's a completely different headspace. But these are all fantastic things to learn and get better at.
So you just always got to have something going on with your time, then, hey.
Yeah, but again, what's so great about being a full-time editor is that's your job, is to manage time. Or space.
So true,
It's kind of, this thing has to be put to bed by then. Fine, we can do that. It's not difficult. It's a puzzle, but it's not difficult. And there's a lot of training, so there's a lot of muscle memory in that regard. So,
I think that's an important point, though. Do you mentor people as well as you're going through things like, I worry, for whatever reason, I know I shouldn't, but it worries me that we aren't teaching people to use critical thinking, which is a necessary element of being an arts critic or an arts writer, for example. So how are we developing that?
Look, I do mentor a couple of people, not in a sort of structured long-term sense, but they sort of come and go as they get better at what they do, or move through a phase, or this is usually the case, get much better at what they're doing than I am. But I think the bigger part of helping somebody, and it's a difficult thing for them to hear, and we know it because we've heard it before as well, is essentially get on with it.
Yeah.
So whatever, you have talent, great. So how do I know that?
Yeah.
You haven't shown me.
Yeah.
You know. So Bruce, you're a singer-songwriter. Cool. Where's your music? Oh, it's just in your garage. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You know. So I have, I think 65 recorded songs now. You know, I don't play that often because again, in terms of the imposter syndromes, I don't play for free anymore.
No, but you shouldn't have to.
I shouldn't have to, and that's exactly it. But but a lot of the time you do.
did have a show a few weeks ago. Hey?
Yeah. In London, but it's great. So you find people that you work with, and again, it's a celebration thing. The fact that they're happy to pay you, and I'm not going to bring 700 people to your restaurant. I don't have that pool, but they're willing, they're happy with the package, you know, and then you go, great, let's celebrate that. But I think essentially, you know, for any young artist, it's just get on with it, man. If you describe yourself as whatever that thing is, as a writer, as a dancer, prove it. You know, otherwise you aren't it. It's got to be your identity. I must walk into a room and go, you know, so we know each other from the industry, but if we didn't, and I walked past, I go, hey, there's Jack Dennill, and I recognize him from acting, because he acts, he gets on with it.
That's what he does,
you know, and so on and so on. So it's that sort of equivalent.
You got to do the job.
Yeah,
it always reminds me, you know, when you talk about talent, roundabout now, coming to the end of the school term, the school year, you're looking forward to the next year. You'll always get those guidance counselors and teachers and people who tell you, you know, you got to think about what you're going to be doing next year for the rest of your life because you've got so much potential. And I hated hearing that.
Well, you also, among other things, you're speaking to somebody who hasn't got the capacity to figure that out yet.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I was 39 when I figured out what I was.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's fair enough because, you know, nothing troubles me more than seeing those people who they had the so-called potential and then did nothing with it.
Yeah.
And those people that everybody had written off, and they become absolute titans because they went for it.
Yeah, they worked. Same in our industry, as you know. I mean, so many of our shared network of colleagues, who are the guys that are working the most? The guys who are working the most.
Guys who are working the most.
You know, they wake up and they get to work.
Yeah.
They don't get poncy about it. They don't get snotty. They treat other people with respect.
Yeah.
And they're not ashamed of their talent, but they're not trumpeting about it either.
Yeah. I think it's always valuable when people are realistic about what they can do. And when people like working with a nice guy, they will always look to work with a nice guy.
Yeah, and I'm not going to mention names, but go and look at posters for theatre or whatever and just go, hey, that guy's in it again.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Final question. What's it like listening to yourself, your music on radio?
It varies because I'm a journalist and a editor. You know, I don't have money, so when I go to the studio, I do it with a mate and I do it at a budget level and so on. So we do a great job.
Sure.
But I'm a critic and I've been listening to music since I was born. So you know, you hear it and you go, that one's not quite right. Ooh. But some of them you hear and you go, bloody hell, that's good. Who's this guy?
Yeah. I'd buy his stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Bruce, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
We never really get a chance. We always meet at events and functions, but we never really have a chance to take the hour.
Millions of people are listening and they'll hold us accountable.
Yeah. No,
we'll
this
get
is
it
on
done.
us. So I just want to say thank you. You are so in every corner of the arts, and I'm so glad you are. Thank you for
and thank you for
yourself.
your advocacy as well. It matters to all of us.
No, thank you. That's one thing that I'm not going to let go, and it can't be bought out of me. And I'm certainly not going to be
pointed commenting.
A political player. My Tubbs knows exactly what I'm talking about. But it's been great having you, and I want to say thank you to all our listeners as well. This is Reality Radio. I wish you all a wonderful and very safe and festive season. Have a lovely, restful one. Be safe. Be back in January because that's when Reality Radio will be back as well. So thank you so much. And from me, Jack Devnarine, have a great weekend.